Going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Kevin, Stevie P coming at you. What's going on, Steve?
And you, what's going on?
All right, so today's podcast, obviously Dan's still on vacation. So today's podcast, we are going to get into the news. We are going to talk about some breakout candidates this year, and we are going to get into some quarterback wide receiver combinations that you can kind of use to double dip, in your scoring column. But first, don't forget to check us out on our website at www.fourthandinchesff.com. That's www.4thandinchesff.com for a bunch of content. You got articles, blogs, player profiles, and you can subscribe to our draft guide, which features a decision maker, which is a tiered out guideline for 3 different styles of drafting. You got one for your risky drafter, your conservative drafter, and you got the tweener, which is basically a mix of both. The draft guide also features the cheat codes, which is a visual breakdown of every team's stats from last year. It's a great tool to prepare for your drafts, and it's the same tool we use to give you information on the podcast. So check that out, and also look for us on the Fantasy Life app. We'll be doing start-sit questions throughout the year, and we are looking into doing a keeper question segment on there as well. And if you're listening, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to read the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right. The Athletic's Jay Glazer reports the Vikings can't stop raving about third-round running back Alexander Madison. The Lions signed defensive tackle Damian Harris, Snacks Harris to most to use, to a 1-year, $11 million extension. The Cardinals released wide receiver Kevin White. When asked if Vance McDonald will see increased play time in 2019, Steelers OC Randy Finchner replied, "He won't. He's never going to play the full game. It's not going to happen." So there you go with that. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports Melvin Gordon's holdout is expected to continue into the season. The Athletics' Vincent Bonsignor, I guess, expects Darrell Henderson to handle 9 to 12 touches per game as a rookie. We're going to definitely talk about that. Darren Waller continues to impress coaches and teammates at Raiders camp. Yeah, he does look very good. NBC Sports Northwest Joe Fan believes Rashard Penny is falling further behind Chris Carson this preseason. Well, if you haven't watched preseason, you wouldn't know that, but he definitely has. Matt Nagy admitted he probably gave Tariq Cohen a little bit too much work last season. I don't think so, but... the Dolphins signed wide receiver Jakeem Grant for a 4-year extension through 2023. ESPN's Jenna Lane reports Ronald Jones has been dealing with swelling in his knee. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, swelling in his. That's why he sucks so bad. The Athletics' Nate Taylor again left Carlos Hyde off his 53-man roster projection. There you go. Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin played all 11 snaps of the first-team offense in Monday night's second preseason game against the Broncos. Speaking Tuesday, 49ers GM John Lynch said Jimmy Garoppolo's recovery from his torn ACL was flawless, or has been flawless. Chargers sign wide receiver Dontrell Inman. That could actually be something we need to talk about. Mm-hmm. NFL Ian Rappaport reports Antonio Brown's latest appeal with his helmet saga will be heard on Friday. Noah Fant suffered a mild ankle sprain Monday night's preseason game. The Patriots activated wide receiver Demaryius Thomas, Achilles, from the PUP list. Cowboys signed linebacker Jalen Smith to a contract extension. That should make Zeke super happy. Antonio Brown's helmet returned to Raiders practice on Tuesday. Speaking Tuesday, Amari Cooper downplayed his plantar fasciitis issue. NFL Ian Rappaport reports Drew Lock suffered a bad thumb sprain on Monday's preseason game, but does not require surgery. Ian Rappaport reports the Cardinals wide receiver Hakeem Butler could be placed on injured reserve with a broken finger. Andrew Luck will not practice this week. Duke Johnson hamstring returned to practice on Tuesday. Emmanuel Sanders' Achilles felt amazing after playing on Monday's night preseason game. That is definitely something we're going to talk about because we're geniuses. John Harbaugh said Marquise Brown's foot has a ways to go. Jimmy Garoppolo completed 1 of 6 passes for 0 yards.
I think this is where we stopped.
Okay.
This is where we started the other day.
Yes, it is, because it's starting to say Monday. All right, so we read this stuff. So, what do you want to talk about, Kev? What do we want to start off? Because there's 3 things I definitely want to hit on.
All right, I do want to let's touch on Emmanuel Sanders.
Yes.
I love Emmanuel Sanders.
Yes.
I wasn't sure about him coming into this year, mainly because he was coming off a torn Achilles, which is, to me, a little bit worse than a torn ACL, especially for a receiver when you got to, use, you're basically using your feet to get open. And I'm really surprised at how good he looked in Monday's preseason game. He had, a few really nice catches. And, if this guy is going to be the number 1 wide receiver and he's shown that he can be a number 1 wide receiver. He was their number 1 wide receiver last year and did a damn good job of doing it. So if you're getting him in the 10th, 9th round, which is where he's being projected to go right now, I think that's a steal.
Yeah, his ADP is going to increase. There's no doubt about it. After the way he looked the other day, his ADP is going up. But it makes me super happy that he looked so good because I have been toting this dude, and Kevin said, yes, if he's healthy, he's definitely going to be the guy. And we look like geniuses because from everything that was coming out of camp, all along, they were saying that, he's running, he's doing this, and then he put that video out of him running. And to me, people were saying, he was just running in a straight line. But, hey, he looked like he was very comfortable, when he ran in that video that he put on Instagram. So, to me, like Kev, I love Emmanuel Sanders. I think he'll probably move into maybe like the end of the 7th round to the middle of the 8th, depending on, just how people, how comfortable people are. I think people will be a little bit nervous because Achilles is an injury that normally takes a lot longer to come back from. But I don't give a damn. Did you see that end around, bro? Like, my man ran like there was nothing wrong with him. And then on that 45-yard, catch that they took back, he got downfield quick. Like the cornerback the cornerback was like 10 yards away from him. Like he was way out there. He had to wait for Flacco to throw him the ball. Like he slowed down to catch it. So, to me, Emmanuel Sanders, I'm really excited that he is, healthy and he is going to play this season. He is definitely a guy that, I would love to have as my wide receiver 3 and, and have him on my team. He's definitely a guy that I drafted a lot this offseason and, in mock drafts and everything. So, happy that he's back.
Yep.
All right. So
anything else? You said there was 3 things.
Yes.
What are the other 2?
Yeah, the other one was Darren Waller because if you guys are Hard Knocks fans, Darren Waller has looked very good. And everybody in camp. It's not just Darren Waller, John Gruden toting him up. It is everybody in camp is saying, this dude is unguardable. We're having trouble guarding him. He's getting open. In that preseason game, he was overthrown by, what is that dude's name? Mike Glennon in the back of the end zone on a little crosser. And I'll tell you what, he was wide open. There was nobody near him. Had he not been overthrown, he would have caught a touchdown in that game. I do think they're going to use this kid. You know what I mean? And if you can get him as a later tight end, if you wait on tight end, you take him late with, somebody else like maybe, I definitely think Vance McDonald's going to be dropping after that news that we're hearing. But, if you can get him and pair him with Vance McDonald, me and Kev told you that we don't really like Vance all that much. So if you could pair him with somebody like that later tight end, he might end up panning out for you. He could be a top 12 guy. If he's going to be used in that offense. And you saw how Derek Carr, used the tight end last season. So that could be a guy that we're all drafting next year.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a good late round flyer if you want to. And like you said, teaming him up with one of those veteran tight ends at the end, like whether it's a Vance McDonald, whether it's a Delaney Walker, whether it's, Greg Olson. Think that's a good strategy because if one of those guys gets hurt, one of those guys underperforms, this guy looks like he's been really doing good. And like you said, Steve, Derek Carr literally, made Jared Cook a monster last year. Now, last year they didn't have Antonio Brown, and that's a lot of targets that are going to go his way. But, I still think Waller could be extra productive in this offense.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And then the third thing that hit me was the Athletics, Vincent, whatever the hell the guy's name is, expects Darrell Henderson to handle 9 to 12 touches per game. If you read further into that, I actually do want to read that to you guys because I think people just I think some people just look at,
the headlines.
Yeah, the headlines, and then they don't read. So what it actually says is also suggests Henderson is competing for a change of pace role with sophomore John Kelly, who has also been working with Blake Bortles' group this preseason. Like Henderson has shown little as a runner in the preseason action, but the Rams also haven't been using their top-notch offensive line, which we told you guys they lost 2 of their interior linemen. So, I don't know about top-notch. Todd Gurley has looked fabulous and healthy all summer. Gurley is still going to be the unquestioned lead back, but how the Rams split the backfield is a question that has yet to been answered and likely won't be until week 1 when the games start to count. This is a fascinating group to track, and we haven't even mentioned Malcolm Brown yet. So we talked about it the other day, Kev. Malcolm Brown was not even given a touch in that game. To me, in Sean McVay's offense, it is very simple, guys. If he doesn't play you in the preseason, he finds you too valuable to lose. Period. That's it. Like there's no further explanation that needs to be given. If he doesn't play you in the preseason, you can look back the past 2 seasons before this preseason. He doesn't play his starters. He doesn't play guys that he deems valuable. Period. That's offensive line. That's, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, defensive players. He doesn't play any of them. They don't get snaps in the preseason games. You know what I mean? They worry about the practices and all that stuff. So, to me, Brown not playing the other day was a significant, marker for me.
Absolutely. And, we said this the other day. And to me, I think expecting Darrell Henderson to get 9 to 12 touches when he's competing for a role is, really just, you're going up basically giving him the high total there. I think 9 is a very high total. And, if he's competing for the John Kelly, he may not even win the role. So, people are drafting Henderson in the 9th round, and there's not even a clear indication that this guy's going to be on the field that much. You gotta take news as it comes. But like you said, if you read more in depth into that article, it clearly states he's competing for the role to try to be kind of the, change of pace, maybe a 3rd down back. They were saying they're going to use him as a Chris Thompson role. But, if this guy can't show you that he's able to run the football and he can't block and pass protect, which a lot of rookies struggle to do, I don't really see him getting on the field too much because all that's going to do is when he gets on the field indicate that they're just passing the ball. So, to me, Darrell Henderson is not a guy that I'm even trying to draft.
Yeah, no. He's just, and even today, Kev, I wanted to mention this real quick because we normally do about 20 minutes in the news and we're only at 14 minutes, so we can go on a little bit. But I did a mock draft today, right? And he still went in the 8th round. I just don't get it. To me, at this point, from what we know, right? Even if he's getting 9 to 12 touches, which we don't know because that's what a beat writer is telling you, or not even a beat writer. The dude that wrote that article is from The Athletic, which is a complete different entity than the team. He's just a dude that writes for, The Athletic, which is a website that, talks about fantasy football. And he's saying that he thinks he's going to get 9 to 12 touches. That has nothing to do with the team. That is not a beat writer even telling you that. If a beat writer was telling you that and they said that, then I would be like, maybe I could see that. But to me, I would be surprised if Darrell Henderson is seeing 8 to 10 touches, not 9 to 12. You know what I mean? And when he sees those touches, they're probably going to be Chris Thompson touches, little scat back, catches out of the backfield and maybe 2 or 3 rushes a game. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see what everybody else sees. And I've been saying this for months. Like, I've been saying this since he got drafted, right, Kev? We've both been saying, what we're seeing on tape, what the kid is putting on tape is not a guy that's going to take over Todd Gurley's job. You know what I mean? Like, even if Todd Gurley gets hurt, we've been saying it. Like, he's just not going to take the job. And if that's the case, then I don't see how people feel comfortable taking him in the 8th round. Like, I just don't get it. You might as well take your 8th round pick and throw it right in the trash. Because if he doesn't get 9 to 12 touches, you're literally wasting that pick. Completely wasting that pick. And that, like I said, it's not coming from a beat writer telling you that. Or a coach or anybody important.
Yeah, and like I said, they're saying they were going to use him in the Chris Thompson role. Chris Thompson himself is going in like the 13th, 14th round. And I understand it's a better offense, but, you're taking Darrell Henderson in the same area that, say, Jordan Howard is going. And Jordan Howard has a touchdown upside of every game this guy could get in the end zone. Every game Jordan Howard could potentially get into the end zone in that Eagles offense. And you're matching him with a guy who is getting, 9 touches we're talking about here. I just don't even think it's a comparison. You guys are wasting your time with the 8th round to Darrell Henderson pick.
Yeah, I think so too.
I will just mention that the more of this Melvin Gordon stuff that comes out, the more and more you just have to drop him down in your ranks.
I
agree. Now they're saying it's almost definitely going into the season. If to me, Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler showed last year that they can be a reliable, stable. They're obviously not as good as Melvin Gordon is, but, and the same honestly holds true in Dallas. Like, if these teams are winning without these guys, they're not going to pay them. So, you gotta really be careful with drafting, Melvin and Zeke. Because both of those guys, like I said, if their teams are winning without them, and the Cowboys especially, because the Cowboys' first 3 games are the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Redskins. 3 games that, even though Zeke is their best player, they very well could win without Zeke. Yep. So, that's a scary situation to draft Zeke, because if that team's winning their first 3, they're really going to give themselves no reason to pay Zeke or sign Zeke or give Zeke that extension. And they're already using money that, other money that could be going to him. They're giving to Jalen Smith, who's I think is a good linebacker. I'm not knocking Jalen Smith.
I'm definitely happy he got his money.
Yeah, but they definitely got to start. They got to take care of their best player, because that whole train in Dallas runs through Ezekiel Elliott. But yeah, both that whole situation you just got to pay attention to, because the longer these guys go without contracts, the longer that you might be from seeing them actually play football. So just, be aware of that.
Exactly. So I just want to give you guys a roundabout. So in a couple of the listener leagues, I took Melvin Gordon in a couple of the leagues. So if you look at the players that I took, you have to do this. If you're going to take a Melvin Gordon or Ezekiel Elliott, you have to commit to going heavy running back, period. Because if those guys sit out, who knows? Let's say 4, 6, 8 games. Who knows? Nobody can tell you. Anybody that says they definitely, know when he's coming back is lying. You know what I mean? There's no indication on when either one of them are coming back, if either one of them are coming back, and we'll have to go with it. But like I took Nick Chubb, Chris Carson, LaShawn McCoy, Kenyon Drake. And this is after I took, this is when I took Melvin Gordon. So, for me, I felt like, Melvin Gordon is a great value when I have those running backs. You know what I mean? And I knew I was going to be taking more running backs. You need to, have at least 2 guys that you feel very comfortable with. And I was very comfortable with Nick Chubb and Chris Carson, that I could wait on Gordon, to when he comes back. But you have to know, if that's going to be the case, you're going to be hurting somewhere. You know what I mean? Whether it's tight end or it's quarterback or it's, wide receiver, you're going to be hurting at a position that you probably may not feel comfortable hurting at, especially if you are a person that, really likes to have a lot of running backs or have, you want to be dominant at one position in a 12-team league, you're not going to be dominant at running back if Melvin Gordon sits out. You know what I mean? Even with, Nick Chubb and Carson, my other guys are McCoy and Drake, and it was because they both fell crazy. I got McCoy in the 13th round, and Drake may not play, and he might lose his starting job. You know what I mean? So my third running back could be hurting. You know what I mean? And you have to know that when you take those guys, and you have to be comfortable with that. You know what I mean? My best advice to you would be, if it gets to the point where they are going into the season and you hear any rumblings of, this guy might come back in, they're talking this, they're talking that, either put up a trade for the guy or just sit on him. Because, when you hear some positive news, if you feel like, okay, I'm a playoff team, if I get a piece, trade him. If you feel like I'm a championship team, if I keep him, then don't. You see what I mean? That's kind of what you have to weigh. And if you don't weigh that option, and when it comes to the point where they're missing games, you're going to be in trouble when it comes later on in the season. It's one of two choices. I'm a championship team with them, or I am a definite playoff team without them. And you have to make that choice.
Yep. All right, so let's get into the breakout players. You want to go first with one of your breakout guys?
Yeah, let me pull up player calculator. Fantasy football calculator. I just want to throw them some love because we use them for all of our ADPs, and they're a great website. So if you guys get a chance, fantasyfootballcalculator.com, great website. Check them out. So for me, we said that basically there's going to be guys after the fourth round.
Yeah.
And see, in the fourth round, I don't really see a huge breakout. The only one that I could really say is Kenny Galladay, because Kenny Galladay was a top 24 guy last year. I wanted to say Tyler Lockett, but Tyler Lockett was a top 12 guy last year, so he's not really a breakout if he finishes in the top 12. Like I've basically been saying all offseason, I think he's going to be a top 12 guy. So, Tyler Lockett is is really the only guy in the fourth round that I see that could break out this year. He could get into the top 12, this season. And the reason I say that is because if you watch the guy play, he's a beast in the red zone. So I don't believe he's only going to have 5 touchdowns the way he did last year. I think that offense is going to be better. I think, a healthy carry-on really opens that offense a lot. And Calvin, and Kenny Galladay could be definitely a double-digit touchdown guy, without a doubt in my mind. So, he's the one guy in the fourth round that I think I really, really like. Chris Godwin is another one, but I was going to say,
yeah. I was going to come up with Godwin, and Godwin, we already saw him, in the first preseason game. He was able to get into the end zone. It's kind of the same thing. If you're high on the Buccaneers offense, like I am, I think that, this team offensively is going to really thrive in the passing game. They don't have a good running, really a good running game to rely on. Unless Peyton Barber suddenly, gets some skill, or Ronald Jones becomes, what people thought he could be last year. But, plus their defense is not very good as well. So literally they're going to be high scoring games where they're trying to either, stay afloat or try to catch up. And, when you have weapons like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and O.J. Howard, Jameis has a lot to work with there, and now he's got a very solid coach. I was not a fan of what was his coach before? Was the guy from the Falcons? Dirk Cutter. Dirk Cutter. Yeah, I was not a fan of Dirk Cutter. I don't really think he was very imaginative in his offense. I think that he kind of just said, go out there, throw it up, much like he does Julio. But to me, he's got one of the best offensive gurus in the NFL, ever. And it should be interesting to see how Jameis is with Bruce Arians. And I think that is going to lead to a Chris Godwin breakout. Another guy I do see in the fourth, I don't really know if you can count him as a breakout, but I'm going to say Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, to me was on the verge of breaking out last year and, tore his ACL. But, this guy, from what we're hearing in camp, looks great. You know, he looks healthy. He's, basically they're saying he's 100%. And if this guy continues the pace that he was on last year, he will be a top 10 receiver. I mean, maybe top 5 receiver. That's the pace he was on last year. After 5 weeks, he was the number 4 receiver, I believe. He was on pace for 16 touchdowns, an average of 1 of every game. So to me, that's another guy that could really break out in the 4th round here.
Yeah, definitely. Cooper Kupp. We've been professing our love for Cooper Kupp. We just love that dude. I was super high on him last year. I know people thought I was crazy, but to me, I thought that offense. And this is the thing you have to do, guys. This is what I will tell you about fantasy football, and this is tried and true. I've been playing fantasy football for almost 17 years. I think it's 17 years. It's the year after we graduated, Kev. So whatever the hell that was.
Well,
I think
15.
Yeah. So. To me, when you look at Cooper Kupp, he is just awesome. And he's on an awesome offense. So the best thing to do in fantasy football, when you get into the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round, guys that you're trying to get on as your starter, weigh what their offense looks like. Don't take dudes on bad offenses there that you think are going to be good. Take guys that you think are going to be good on good offenses, because the likelihood of them scoring more touchdowns on good offenses is going to outweigh the guy on a bad team that you think is going to break out. You know what I mean? Just handcuff yourself as much as you can to really good offenses. Last year, I was all over the Chiefs. I was all over the Rams. You know what I mean? I had a couple of, I had like Joe Mixon and guys like that. But you want to put yourself with those teams. And Cooper Kupp is on a great offense with a great offensive coach. To me, Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Sean Payton, who other, offensive minds.
Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians, Gary Kubiak in the running game. There are specific coaches that you want to take players from those teams because they make productive players out of certain, positions or just every position. I mean, those head coaches I just named are going to, put offenses together that are going to produce fantasy points, and that's what you need to have to win. Go ahead, Kev.
It's funny you bring up Gary Kubiak because Gary Kubiak runs the Shanahan system.
Yep.
And we've been talking about Tevin Coleman, who is a 5th round pick, and he's never really broke out like that. But Gary Kubiak turned Arian Foster, who was an undrafted rookie free agent, and made him, a 1st round fantasy pick year in, year out.
Exactly.
And, it's not far fetched to think a guy like Tevin Coleman could wind up going in that same path. He actually runs to me a lot like Arian Foster, has that one cut that you can get through the hole and take off. And that's what it is. It's one cut system, bang, hit it and go. And, to me, like you said, guys like that are, known for making certain positions and certain players break out, that's what you want to kind of stick to.
Definitely, especially I always say it like this: in the first 3 to 4 rounds, take the best players because those guys are all superstars. You know what I mean? They're all superstars, especially round 3. Round 4, you might be able to get maybe 4 or 5 of those guys are superstars, and then you start getting to the the next tier of not superstar but really close. But when you get into round 6, 7, 8, 9. All those rounds, you're filling out the rest of your roster. Just pick teams that have big players that are on really good offenses, and it's that simple. You know what I mean? You will win your fantasy leagues because of that strategy. And then from round 10 on, just go for home runs. Just go for guys that could be really good or take the job or whatever the case may be. In those later rounds. But as soon as you have your core, your core really good players, then start going for home runs. And that is the strategy that you want to use for fantasy football to win. In the 5th round, Kev, there's a couple guys here. So for me, it's really hard. I'm actually going to pick 2 in this round because to me, round 5 and 6 are I really like some of these guys. So the first one, I'll just name them both and then we can both talk about them because I know one of them is going to be one of yours. So O.J. Howard and Tyler Boyd for me on this list. Very easy. These guys could be home runs, boys, ladies and gentlemen. These 2 guys could be really good. Tyler Boyd is in an offense where you know he's going to be the number one guy for the first couple of weeks. And even after that, this offensive line is terrible. And he plays in the slot. He moves around. You saw last year how good he was. And, I know people were like, oh, yeah, he wasn't that good when A.J. Green wasn't there. He had Jeff Driscoll throwing to him for most of that time.
People do not realize that he had 2 games with Andy Dalton, and the other 4 were with five were with Jeff Driscoll as his quarterback when Andy Reid was out, or when A.J. Green was out.
Exactly.
So, people are going off phantom. You're basically going off your backup quarterback there, and it's an unreasonable way to monitor his production.
Exactly. And my thing is, you guys don't have the time. Most of you guys don't have the time to watch the tape, but I did. I watched the tape last year. Jeff Driscoll sucks. He is and I don't like saying that about players, but he's not good. Okay? Bad. Bad is the only way to explain it. And the offensive line wasn't good either last year. So Jeff Driscoll throwing on the ball does not say anything to me. You know what I mean? He looked good last year. He broke out last year. You know what I mean? Regardless of how you might feel, he broke out last year, showed how great of a wide receiver he could be, and he could be really good this year. O.J. Howard is on a Bruce Arians offense that's super high-powered. They have just weapons in everywhere except the running back position. And honestly, in a Bruce Arians offense, I don't feel like they need the running back all that much. I feel like he is going to let Jameis be Jameis, and I think these guys are going to get open for Jameis, and I don't give a damn what anybody says. You're not guarding Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and O.J. Howard. You're not able to guard all those guys. There's just too much speed on the field. Godwin is great at getting open, and Evans is a threat to score on literally every play. So, I just think O.J. Howard has a lot of upside.
Yeah, I just talked about Tevin Coleman a little bit. Tyler Boyd was definitely one of my guys. I've been saying, now everybody who comes from – I was talking about this with one of my friends earlier. When you get a lot of olive branches from coaching staffs. And I've been preaching about this one a lot, that Rams offense, which is where Zach Taylor's from, targets the slot receiver in the red zone a lot. And that is Tyler Boyd's position. And I just think that this year, once they get into the red zone, he's going to be heavily targeted. They do got A.J. Green coming back in probably week 4 or 5, where he'll be a guy you can probably lob the ball up to. But like I said, I think Tyler Boyd is going to see a good amount of red zone work. And, I think he does a really good job of getting open. If you saw a watch last year, he's a shifty guy that's able to use some of his size. He's pretty tall for a slot receiver. And, I liked what I saw from him last year. And I think that he, could repeat that or do even better this year. Like I said, Tevin Coleman, I talked about enough. I think that he can break out this year and, definitely, I think he could finish in the top 10. I really do. If he stays healthy for a whole year, in that system, you saw what Matt Breida did, and I think Tevin Coleman is a much better football player. So, to me, I think if he stays healthy all year, Tevin Coleman could wind up being a guy that breaks the top 12, top 15, barring how much work they give him. I mean, it seemed like they probably are going to go a little more committee, probably especially when McKinnon gets back. I could see him doing it, but, another guy I'm actually surprised you didn't bring up was Miles Sanders, because of how you have basically been preaching about him. But the one thing keeping this from happening is obviously the Eagles, I guess mindset on committee and standing firm on that. But Miles Sanders, to me, is clearly the best running back, and I'm a Jordan Howard fan. Okay, I actually really like Jordan Howard, but to me, I think Miles Sanders is clearly the best running back, and if he's showing the ability to, do the same things that Howard can do, which is basically get, perform in the short yardage, I can see him kind of taking a bell cow role, and if he takes a bell cow role, he will be a beast. Miles Sanders will be a monster.
Yeah, I agree. So, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put my stamp of approval on this dude. Miles Sanders is going to win you fantasy football championships this year. I'm just going to say it now. He is going to be a player that wins people their fantasy leagues. Okay, so this is my rationale so that you guys hear me say it and then understand why I'm saying it. So Jay Ajayi last year, when healthy, had 14 touches a game, right? Mm-hmm. Miles Sanders is way better than Jay Ajayi. I don't think it's close. I honestly don't think, especially last year, I didn't think Jay Ajayi looked good at all at any point last year.
Not at all.
Yeah. So if you're going to give that guy 14 touches, I could 100% see Miles getting 17 touches a game, which is only 3 more than what he was getting last year. And with 17 touches a game, this dude is a top 15 running back, and you're getting him in almost round 6. Like, to me, if you can start your team off with, let's say you have like let's say you pick, Saquon. You pick Saquon, you come back, you get 2 stud wide receivers. In the 4th round, you take, one of the tight ends because they, fall a little bit, which I've seen a lot happening. Zach Ertz, something like that. And then you get Miles in your 5th or 6th round. I'm telling you, you could be really, really happy and win your fantasy league because of that. Like, I love this kid. I really think that he's going to be big for people this year, and I really think he's going to win you your fantasy league.
All right. 6th round.
6th round. So there's a couple in the 6th round which I find a little bit difficult to pick in this round, but the 2 names that stick out to me, and I know Kev's not going to agree with one of them, but Christian Kirk, I know Kev will agree. Christian Kirk, we've been toting him all year. I think Christian Kirk is due for that breakout season, and I said within the next 3 years he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver being drafted that way, because I just think he, his get off from the line of scrimmage, his ability to, catch the ball and run after the catch, all those things that you want in your wide receiver, I think he can do. And I believe that he's going to be Kyler Murray's, if not his favorite target, his second favorite target. And in this air raid system, I think he's going to have a big year. And the other guy is Allen Robinson. And I know Kev's not going to agree, but I think Allen Robinson is going to be a low-end wide receiver 2. He's not being drafted that way. He's being drafted as a mid-round, mid wide receiver 3. And I just think in this offense, I think he has upside of scoring close to 10 touchdowns, and I think he's definitely going to be the most targeted guy. Matt Nagy runs a Andy Reid system, and, the ex-receiver on an Andy Reid system has big years, and this is his 2nd year in that system, coming off the 2nd year of his ACL injury. I think he has a chance to be a steal in round 7.
Yep. My guy in round 6 was Christian Kirk. Basically everything Steve said. And, I'll just say that I think he's going to be in the slot. I think that this offense is going to be throwing a lot of short, quick passes. And especially with that line, we talked about the line and what it's doing for, David Johnson. It made me basically scared to take him in the 1st round, period. But, I think Christian Kirk is going to basically be the quickest to get open on that team. His footwork at the line of scrimmage is awesome. And, I saw it last year. I've talked about it and kind of compared his footwork to Keenan Allen a little bit. And, to me, Christian Kirk is a great guy to gamble on. He's kind of crept his way up. When he first started doing mocks, I think he was like in the 8th round, and he's now going into the 6th round. So I think a lot of people starting to feel the same way. But, yeah, Christian Kirk was my guy in the 6th round for sure.
Yep. So on to
Hey.
round 8.
7.
Oh, 7. Okay, I'm sorry. Round 7.
Whew. There's only one guy. Well, you got one guy. No, I'll go with the other guy.
All right, you go first this time, Kevin.
All right, I'll go with Curtis Samuel. He's another guy that's just seriously jumped all the way up looking at this now, because this guy was going 12, in round 10. Yeah, he was going around 10, 11, 12 when we first started, and now he's up around 7. DJ Moore is going in round 5, the end of round 5, and we've been telling you, Curtis Samuel, when they were on the field together, performed better. He definitely got in the end zone more. DJ Moore became more of a PPR guy, whereas Curtis Samuel, did a lot of the same things and got in the end zone. So yeah, to me, if I'm picking one of Cam's receivers, I'm going with Curtis Samuel because I think he's going to have a better chance to break out of the two.
I agree. Curtis Samuel's, last year we talked about this a little bit. He had 7 touchdowns. He only played in, what was it, 7 games, Kev? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was like 7.
Yeah, so he played in 7 games. He scored 7 touchdowns. You definitely could see near the red zone, he was being looked at. Cam was 100% focusing in on him in the passing game. And, I know there was no Greg Olsen last year, for a lot of those games. But, to me, he's definitely got breakout written all over him. The Buffalo Bills are a very good defense. And in Bills camp, when the Panthers came, for, training, because they do, the teams play against each other during the week, all the Bills corners were saying that this dude was just making at least one highlight play every day in practice. And, to me, just a guy that really has a chance to break out this year and be very good. And
yeah, he actually played in 13 games and scored 5 touchdowns, but I don't know how many of those games he actually played. Where he was,
I got you. So let's see here. I think I am going to go with Darius Geis.
Ooh, I thought you were going to go Will Fuller.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Will Fuller, I talked about him enough. I kind of feel like, he is. I don't feel like he could be a breakout. I think everybody knows how talented he is. It's just the injury that's really stopping people from taking him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I will talk about Darius Geis, though. Darius Geis, to me, is a guy that on a very bad offense, but if he's healthy, the dude is an animal. You know what I mean? The offensive line, I'm hoping Trent goes back, but
that's not happening.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But still, if Darius Geis is healthy, he's going to get a lot of carries this year. They're going to ride him because they're going to need to. They're not going to have a chance. They're not going to have a choice. They're going to have to ride their best players, and Darius Geis is definitely one of their best players and a guy that I could see getting an outrageous workload if he is fully healthy. And we're going to find out this week. They're talking about they're going to give him, some work and see how he looks and feels. And, Jay Gruden was saying the other day that if he does, if he feels good, they're going to ride him the whole first half. They're going to see what he looks like. And I really hope they do that, because if they do, we will 100% get to see what this kid looks like. And if he looks healthy to me, I will be drafting him a lot.
You're telling me, because I have him right now in our keeper league as a 12th round keeper. Mm-hmm. And I took a gamble on it, and I'm telling you right now, like I'm really excited to see what he has to offer tomorrow, because, this guy looked really good last year on the few runs that he had in the preseason, and if he can, keep up with that and kind of, make his way through into the NFL using those same plays and same stats, and yeah, man, I think Darius Geis has the ability to just be a beast, because he is a big running back that is quick and likes to inflict punishment.
Definitely. So
and we'll just end it in the 8th round.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys. So in the 8th round, there's a couple of guys here that I actually really like. Let me see. I will go with. Okay, so I'm going to put Dante Pettis in the 8th round, because Dante Pettis is being picked at 7-12, right between Darrell Henderson and Dante Pettis. So he's going in the 8th round. Dante Pettis, I know, we've heard, things coming out of the 49ers camp that, he has to work for his starting job and blah, blah, blah. That's not what I saw the other day. The other day, he got all the first team reps with Jimmy Garoppolo. My fear is that Jimmy Garoppolo is shell-shocked from that knee injury and is just kind of feeling, feeling shadows, kind of. You know what I mean? He's hearing footsteps. He's getting nervous, which is understandable after you have an ACL injury. You don't want guys falling around your legs. But when Garoppolo gets right, and he will get right, you know what I mean? Eventually he's going to feel more comfortable in the pocket and all that stuff. Dante Pettis could be really, really good. You know what I mean? He showed last year that he had the ability to do things that nobody else on that offense really can do because, to me, Goodwin is a deep threat, and that's it.
Marquise Goodwin, yeah.
Marquise Goodwin is he's a deep threat, and he's really nothing else. You know what I mean? He showed nothing in his NFL career to make you think that he is a number one wide receiver.
He is Deshaun Jackson.
Yes.
He's the fastest player in the NFL.
Exactly. So Dante Pettis, I feel like, is out of the wide receiver position on that team. To me, I think it's going to be Debo. I don't even think, Goodwin is going to be the number two. To me, I think it's going to be Debo and Dante. And, I think both of them could be good in a Kyle Shanahan offense. And if Dante plays the X receiver, I told you guys already, the X receiver in a Kyle Shanahan offense is amazing. I mean, we all, like, the one guy that I always throw out there because I had him on my fantasy team that year, and Pierre Garçon. Pierre Garçon, the year that the Redskins, had Kyle Shanahan as their offensive coordinator, caught 113 balls for 1,300 yards, and I think he had 7 or 8 touchdowns. He was amazing that year. He had an amazing year, and in a Kyle Shanahan system, the X receiver gets pelted. The Kyle Shanahan offense, guess what? Remember the 203 year that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Kev? That was under Kyle Shanahan. Julio had a 203 target season. That's crazy. That's a crazy number. And had 1,873 yards, I believe, receiving that year.
Yep.
Dude, if he's going to get 150 targets, I want Dante Pettis on my team.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of Pettis. That's more of a wait and see guy for me. He's not a guy I've been going, but I can definitely see breakout potential. If he plays the way he did in those couple games last year, because there was a 4 game stretch last year where he was really, really good. My 8th round guys, I'm just going to throw 2 of them out. They are Dede Westbrook and Geronimo Allison. I love that they're throwing Geronimo in the slot. I do think that they're going to kind of mix him and Devontae Adams around right now. But I think, kind of with the way the direction of the NFL, big slot receivers are kind of coming in a little bit. And I think Geronimo could really perform well in that role for Green Bay. So to me, Geronimo is a guy that I like drafting around there, and Dede Westbrook is another. Target's got to go somewhere in Jacksonville, and you're hearing a lot about DJ Chark, but to me, Dede Westbrook has been a playmaker these first couple years in the NFL, and he finally has to me, a quarterback that can get him the ball safely. Nick Foles may not be as good as Blake Bortles. He's as good as Blake Bortles, but I'm trying to figure out the way to say this. Okay, Nick Foles is less. He's going to make less mistakes than Blake Bortles. That's what
he's much
better. Yes. He's definitely better. I had to bleep that whole section out. Nick Foles won me a damn Super Bowl, but I don't think Nick is a great quarterback. I think he's a system quarterback, and he, fit in very well with what we did here we basically changed the playbook for Nick when he got here and made it more of a read option thing. But, I do think Nick is very good with the football. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He's very careful with picking his targets, which is completely opposite of Blake Bortles. And to me, I think Dede Westbrook is the guy that's going to benefit from that.
Yeah, and John DeFilippo was a one of the Eagles coordinators back in the day.
He was their quarterback coach.
Yeah, quarterback coach. So, he knows Nick Foles. He knows his strengths and weaknesses. So I feel like he's going to put him in situations that are going to help him out. And Nick Foles, if you looked at his numbers, he targeted the slot and the tight end a lot. So,
yeah.
He did it a lot. So I could definitely 100% see, Dede being really good. The one name that I do want to throw out there, it's not, he's not even being drafted right now, is DJ Chark. So DJ Chark, I think he's 6'4". I'm pretty sure he's like 6'4", and he is fast as lightning. And one thing that Nick Foles does like to do is he does like to chuck it deep. So, just a name to, keep in mind, when you're drafting later on in that draft and you want to see, throw a dart at somebody. I think DJ Chark is starting to hear some noise coming out of Jaguars camp about him. And we got to listen to the noise because that's what we do here.
All right, so there's your breakouts. Where are we at time-wise, Steve?
50 minutes.
All right, cool. So we'll get into a little quarterback, wide receiver, quarterback pass catcher combinations because it's not always going to be, there's going to be some tight ends probably in here. Just guys to watch out for. And we'll go through the first 10 or 12 quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, you obviously have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. But to me, this is a very hard situation to wind up with because you got to draft Mahomes in the third round. You're going to have to draft Kelce or Hill in the second. This is not my favorite combination to wind up with because of their values of where you have to draft all those players.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really hard on your football team, on your fantasy football team, when you have to take. Last year the reason why Patrick Mahomes won people so many championships because you got him in 11th round, 12th round. You know what I mean? That's how late he was going. And if you took Tyreek Hill in the second or third round, and then you took Travis Kelce in the second or third round, you looked like a genius. But this year you have to take them in the second round and then take Mahomes in the third. And that is really rough. My father-in-law was, you guys know the podcast listener leagues know that in one of the leagues he took Kelce and Hill and was trying to get Mahomes in the third. So to me, that's just crazy. I mean, if he doesn't throw 50 touchdowns again, those guys will help you. They'll be very good for your fantasy team, but you're just handcuffing yourself to that team, and that's not a bad team to do that with. But I just feel like if one injury from that team happens, it's really going to hurt you bad, especially if Mahomes goes down. Mahomes goes down, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and Kelsey's the harder one because you're basically going tight end quarterback in the first 3 rounds, and I just don't think that's a good way to start your draft.
Yeah, you're going to be hurting at wide receiver and running back.
Yes. Deshaun Watson. So to me, you could pair him up with Hopkins or Fuller. Honestly, I think him and Fuller isn't a bad one to wind up with. Obviously, we've been talking about drafting, Watson. We've been talking about not really going high on quarterback, but there's sometimes where you get into that 5th round and you're looking and you're like, do I really want to draft some of these guys that are here? And then you start looking at Watson and you're like, well, I could get Watson. He could be the number 1 quarterback with all the talent around him if they all stay healthy. And, I think it's definitely a good idea if you went with Hopkins in the first round because – that's a great pair to have. And even with Will Fuller, you saw what Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller have looked like. If you're able to get Watson in the 5th and then Fuller in the 7th, I think that's pretty good tandem to wind up with.
Definitely. I agree. I actually was just going to bring this up while Kev was talking. I didn't get it up fully. But I'm pretty sure I looked this up maybe, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And it was brought back up today. I was listening to a podcast, and I can't remember which one it was. But they had mentioned that how good Deshaun Watson was, the year, his rookie year. And so I looked, a couple weeks ago we were looking it up, and I believe he was like 1.3 fantasy points better than Patrick Mahomes was last year. And we all know how great Patrick Mahomes was last year. The dude had 50 touchdowns and all that. And Deshaun Watson, his rookie year was actually 1.3 points better per game. Or per game, which is insane.
Yeah,
I mean that's insane.
His rookie year, he was ridiculous.
He was a freaking Madden quarterback. He was like a creative player. You know what I mean in Madden. So to me, he has that kind of upside. You got to remember, last year was the year after his ACL. So, it's to me you got to take that into account. You know what I mean? And if he. We talked about Lamar Jackson and how much upside he has. Deshaun Watson has the same upside. The dude could run for 600, 700, 800 yards, score 10-plus rushing touchdowns and throw for 35, 40 touchdowns. I don't think that's crazy. I really don't. I think he has that kind of ability as a quarterback. We saw the way he throws the ball. If you watch the other preseason game the other day, D-Hop D-Hop, to me, after watching that second preseason game, he is the no-brainer number one wide receiver. I just want him so bad because if you watch that red zone catch, like literally you're talking about one of the better cornerbacks in the league guarding him, and he just beat him like a drum. It was literally like, a fake outside, smack your hands off me, and touchdown. You know what I mean? It was awesome. So that Deshaun could be very, very good.
Yeah, which obviously the value of getting Hopkins and Deshaun, you're then going to be a little bit weaker at running back if you do that, unless you go running back in the next 3 rounds.
Yep.
But it doesn't really work out for you that way because once you get into like the 5th round, the running backs kind of start to tailor off, and you're going to wind up probably filling yourself out with another receiver. But
and D-Hop, real quick, Kev, the D-Hop has only missed 1 game, and that 1 game that he missed was he sat out because they didn't play in this week 17.
That's one of the things I love about DeAndre Hopkins more than anything is he has a clean bill of health, man. He does stay healthy.
And he plays if he's hurt. He don't care. I mean, he goes out there and plays. You don't have to worry about him at all.
All right, so the next one would be Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, you would team him up with Devontae Adams. I mean, you got the other guys there, but none of those. Geronimo, I just talked about him, but him and MVS aren't really proven guys. So you would obviously, pair him up with Devontae Adams. This honestly, I haven't been higher high on Aaron Rodgers I do have him as my number 5 quarterback, so I guess it's not the craziest thing in the world, but I can't read that, Steve. Sorry, it's too blurry.
Yeah. Real quick, we have breaking news. Dyron Thompson has leapfrogged Carlos Hyde in the depth chart. He's been taking all the second team reps in camp this week. Yeah,
we just got done saying in the news Carlos Hyde is probably going to get cut. Yeah, because he in an Andy Reid system, you got to be able to catch the ball. And if you can't or not good at catching the ball out of the backfield, you are, not very useful to him. So, it doesn't spell good things for Carlos Hyde. But yeah, I haven't really been the highest on Aaron Rodgers. And, but I have him at number 4 or 5 quarterback. He's number 3 quarterback being drafted. But I love Devontae Adams. I absolutely love Devontae Adams. And to me, this is a very good pair to get. I actually got this in an auction league we did. I actually, spent up on Rodgers just so I can pair them up because the Adams just gets so much love in the red zone. This is a guy that can score 16 touchdowns easily. And, when you got touchdown upside, like that's what this quarterback wide receiver combination is for the touchdowns. So when you get a guy that can score 15, 16 touchdowns, that quarterback wide receiver combo is a great combination to have.
Yeah, definitely. Aaron Rodgers. And this is one thing we kind of haven't mentioned about A-Rod. A-Rod is like, if there's one thing I can say about Aaron Rodgers is that dude listens to the media. Like, he is one of those dudes that when you talk trash about the Green Bay Packers, he hears it, and he will come back to the media and be like, like the whole, we guys all remember a couple years ago, he was like, stay calm or whatever the hell he said.
RELAX.
Yeah, relax. You know what I mean? Like, he listens to the media. And he's heard all the stuff that, everybody's saying about him not being the best quarterback in the NFL and everything. He could come out and be like, you know what? I'm going to throw for 50 touchdowns this year, or I'm going to damn sure try. You know what I mean? So, and he's one of those dudes. He thinks he's the best quarterback in the NFL, and I don't argue with him. I mean, talent-wise, it's hard to say that he's not. You know what I mean? Arm talent-wise, it's hard to say that he's not. But I don't know. That's a pairing that I would love to have. You know what I mean? Like, especially if Aaron drops, if you're in a league that the guys hold off on quarterback and he drops into the 6th, 7th round, I would love to have, Devontae and then have Aaron Rodgers, as my quarterback. That would be great. Yep.
All right, so you got Baker Mayfield with, Odell or Jarvis. Probably more Odell. Jarvis is more PPR than touchdown. This is another really good combination to get. Obviously, I haven't been not necessarily big on Baker. I think Baker could be good, but I've been saying, like, if I'm going to draft a guy this high, I want a guy that I know has done it before. And Baker, even last year, was, he was good, but he wasn't, number 4 quarterback. So for me, this is probably a combination I'm staying away from just because I'm not going to be drafting Baker. Odell kind of scares me a little bit too because he's injured a lot. But if these two stay healthy and the hype is real, like the hype is there. If these two live up to the hype, if this team lives up to the hype, this could be the best quarterback wide receiver pair there is because there's a lot of hype around that Cleveland Browns offense.
You're not lying. And if you look at the ADP of Baker Mayfield, he is the 4th quarterback coming off the board. I completely agree with Kev. He's coming off at pick 605, which is that's real high. Yeah, I mean that's real high. I'm a risky dude. I'm a guy that's like loves risk, and I don't have the cojones to mess around and take Baker Mayfield in this 6th round. I'm not gonna do it. So if you feel
that's a pick that's a pick that could really cost you your league, honestly.
Yeah, it really.
Because you're missing out a lot of guys in that 6th round that could potentially, guys that we just talked about, and you're getting a quarterback there, and Baker doesn't pan out.
Exactly.
They're going to run the ball a lot too. Yeah, let's not forget Nick Chubb is a beast of a running. So. Yes. They're definitely going to run the ball a lot.
And that's the thing. If you look at their run-pass splits when they had the lead last year, it was, like, outrageous. I want to say it was something like 68% run to pass. Like, it really, really flipped. Like, when they were behind in games, obviously Baker Mayfield was throwing the ball a lot because you're behind. So, I mean, that's not something that is whatever. But if this offense is as good as everybody says it's going to be, and, I agree, I think this offense is going to be good. If you believe that, right, and you think this could be a, let's say, 27 point per game, team. Let's say anywhere from 25 to 27 points per game team, right? Mm-hmm. Chubb is going to be getting a whole lot of carries, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was the number 1, running back at the end of the season. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But you have to take into account if they are scoring that much, they are going to outscore a whole bunch of teams. They're going to be in the lead in a lot of games, and Nick Chubb is going to be seeing a whole lot of carries, and Baker Mayfield probably not going to be throwing the ball late in the game. So, what makes – and this is the other thing about Deshaun Watson. Like, Deshaun – and I don't mean to break it off and go back to what we were talking about, but Deshaun Watson his schedule is way harder than the Cleveland Browns. They have, like, one of the toughest schedules in the league. So if they're going to be in competitive games, Deshaun Watson is definitely a guy that I would take because he's going to be in competitive games, going to be needing to throw. If Baker Mayfield is blowing teams out, they're blowing teams out, Baker Mayfield ain't going to be throwing. So I'm not taking him there. And, I love Odell Beckham and the pairing, but I'm not taking that in the 6th. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This is too risky for me. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. You obviously could go Calvin Ridley, but for better value, you could go with Ridley. But me,
no, don't do it.
The Matt Ryan and Julio to me is one of the best values you can get for a quarterback wide receiver. We've been not really preaching against, but haven't been as high on Matt Ryan, probably because it's that off year, the on and off splits he's had, and
it's real, y'all. It's real.
Yeah, but I mean, Julio Jones to me is the best receiver in the NFL, and all it's going to take is him to get a double-digit touchdown season for him to be the number 1 wide receiver, bar none. So if that season is this year, that Matt Ryan Julio Jones combo to me is one of the best you can grab.
I 100% agree. And this is the thing, guys, and this is kind of what I was talking about with Matt Ryan, the on-off. I am going to do a breakdown so you guys understand what I'm saying. So I do not think that Matt Ryan is going to have a terrible season. Matt Ryan has not thrown for less than 4,000 yards since 2010. Since 2010, Matt Ryan has thrown for at least 4,000 yards in every season. So in 2010 he threw for 3,705, right? Had 28 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Very good year, considering touchdown to interception ratio. The next year, 41, 77, and 29, 47, 19, and 32, 45, 15, and 26. He had 46, 94, and 28. So and this is where the on-off starts to happen. 45, 91, 21 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. And in those years, he had 12, 14, 17, 14, and then, back to that year, 16 interceptions, right? Then this very next year, his MVP season, he had 4,944 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. The next year, 4,095 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Last year, 4,924 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. So it's the touchdowns that go down vastly. They drop a lot. You know what I mean? From year 12 to 13, they dropped by 6. Then they went up to 28, then they dropped to 21, dropped another 7, then they went up to 38 and then dropped by 18. You know what I mean? Like when he drops touchdowns, it's not like a couple, it's a lot. 10 plus. You know what I mean? That's a lot. So, I like Matt Ryan, but he's going in the 7th round and I'm not taking him there. But I do like that pairing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the situation with the Ryan and Julio thing is that this is kind of one of those years where, could be off year. And to me, if Devontae Freeman stays healthy, it definitely could be that sign because they're going to run the ball a little bit with Freeman. Carson Wentz, obviously you can go Alshon or Zach Ertz. This is another really good pairing because of the values. Mm-hmm. You can get Ertz in the 3rd, you can get Alshon in the 6th, you can get Carson in the 7th. That's the value. The value is some of the best with these guys because Ertz could very well be the number 2 tight end. Carson could be the number 1, number 2 quarterback, and they have double-digit touchdown upside. So that's the key with that is making sure these guys are scoring touchdowns.
Exactly, and Alshon could be a double-digit touchdown guy, 100%. He's a very good player.
Absolutely.
So the pairing that I of all the ones that we've talked about that I really think I like a lot is Cam because he's going late, and then pairing him with either one of those wide receivers because I do think they're going to be good. And I know we've been saying that DJ Moore is the guy we don't want, but now finally, after we've been toting them for so long, DJ Moore is starting to move up. I mean, what's his name? Curtis Samuel is starting to move up. So their draft stock is very close. So DJ, I think, is going the end of round 6, and now Samuel is going mid round 7. So they're very close now. So I wouldn't mind having Cam and either one of those guys. I think that's a really good pairing this year. I think both of those guys could be very, very productive this year, and that's a pairing that I wouldn't mind having because round 8, 9, 10, 11 is kind of where I'm taking my quarterback. So if I can get Cam paired with either one of those guys, I like it. Yeah.
To me, another good one is Luck and Ty. I mean, Ty is not the biggest touchdown monster, but I mean, to me, getting Luck with one of those receivers, Luck is an 8th round pick right now. He's the number 8 quarterback. That's where he's dropped to. So, I think he's playing from week 1. I think they have a plan for him. I think they're ready to, he's going to be ready week 1. He's not a guy that I'm worried about injury wise. So, pairing Luck and Ty, Luck and, even Luck and Ebron, Luck and Jack Doyle, to me, those are good combinations to grab because, Luck throws a shit ton of touchdowns and, they're going to go to those guys.
I agree. I definitely agree.
You got Drew Brees and Michael Thomas. We haven't been the highest on Drew Brees, and last year he did not throw for 4,000 yards, first time in a long time. And, to me, they're just going to use the running game a little bit more. Latavius Murray is not really what Mark Ingram is. He's definitely more of a running back than a pass catcher out of the backfield. So, to me, I think that the Brees and Michael Thomas thing, I do think it's a good one, but, just not not really high on Breeze. I'd rather take Cam or, some of the other quarterbacks there.
Definitely, I agree. Yeah, and Drew Brees hasn't thrown for less than 4,000 yards since 2005.
Yes.
So just so you guys know how great that guy's been. The dude had, this is insane, Kev. This dude had 3 consecutive seasons of 5,000 yards passing. Like,
that's nuts.
He is, to me, the greatest fantasy quarterback maybe ever. I know Peyton Manning is up there, but between those two guys, I don't know. I might take Breeze. The dude had...
it's true.
Yeah.
Fantasy?
Fantasy.
It's true.
Dude, Drew has been amazing. So I'm not going to say that Drew Brees can't finish in the top 8 because he definitely could. But last year made me a little bit nervous, and I'm probably not going to be drafting too much Drew. But he could prove me wrong and be like crazy awesome.
Right.
So
I'm just... Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Russell
No,
Wilson.
I was just going to say...
Yeah,
I was just going to say, we'll throw a couple more out there. We really don't have to get into them. Just throw maybe like 2 or 3 more out there, and
Yeah, Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett. I've been telling you guys, and I'm coming around on Russell Wilson. So, and the reason I'm coming around on Russell Wilson, and I am going to start putting him into my top 12, that defense is terrible. Have you seen them in the preseason? They are bad. They're really we are not used to seeing bad Seahawks defenses, but if you watch that last preseason game, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. And I know they have lost all of their good players, but I thought, they would be able to come around and get some, young talent playing well. And I know Bobby Wagner didn't play in the last game, so that makes a huge difference. But if their corners are going to play like they've been playing this preseason, woo, Russell Wilson going to have to throw the ball. There ain't no question. There is no question in my mind that if they play the way they've been playing, he's going to have to throw. So Russell Wilson, it will be in my top 12 very shortly.
All right. Yeah, Russell and Tyler Lockett, I think, is a really good one. Jared Goff and any of those receivers is good. All those receivers are good values. I think Cooks and Woods are pretty much 4th round picks. I'm not, is Woods or is Cooks a 3rd round or a 4th round?
Cooks is a 4th round.
Yeah, Cooks and Woods are actually going back to back in the 4th round. Cooper Kupp is the last pick in the 4th round, so they're all 4th round picks. You get, one of those guys in the 4th round. You get Jared Goff in the 9th round. I think they're all, that's a really, any of those is good. Some later ones you could probably throw out. Jameis and Mike Evans, I think, is an outstanding one. Yeah, that's an outstanding one. Ben and Juju, to me, Juju hasn't really shown to be a big touchdown guy, but, with Antonio not there, that could definitely increase. Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, that's another one. It's not really a touchdown guy, but, to me, Phillip Rivers, Mike Williams, that's not a bad one to take a chance on because Mike Williams caught a lot of touchdown passes last year. Mm-hmm. And if you want to take it even later, you could say Dak and Amari Cooper. You can say Kirk Cousins and, Thielen or Diggs.
Big Ben and Juju.
Who's that?
Big Ben and Juju.
I said Big Ben and Juju. I was saying he's not really the biggest touchdown guy, but with Antonio not there, when Antonio not there, that could definitely increase. Derek Carr, Antonio Brown, not really being Antonio or Derek Carr is not really. He's being drafted in the 14th round, basically as a second quarterback, but
Yep. If Josh Allen plays well this season, John Brown could be really good.
He's just airing that.
He is
ball.
just going to be putting it up, and John Brown can get deep, boy. So, not a pairing that I would say go with, from Jump Street, but, if you take Josh Allen as your number 2 quarterback, which I really like, and then just take John Brown literally as your, second to last pick, that pairing could end up paying off for you, especially if Josh Allen starts showing that he's a consistent quarterback every single week, and he can show you that he's a top 12 guy. Yeah, that might be a pairing that you could put John Brown in your flex position, and if he's just having a dominant season. Last year he was on pace. We broke it down for you. What was it? Maybe a month ago. That if John Brown stayed on the pace that he started the season off with, I think he was on a 1,200 yard
Yeah, it was somewhere.
Yeah, 1,200 yard, 9
once
touchdown
Lamar
season.
Jackson got in there, he went downhill.
Yeah, it was like almost 1,200 yards, and I think 9 touchdowns, which is awesome. And you're getting him in round like 13.
Yep. I mean, you got Matthew Stafford and Galladay or Marvin Jones. Those are some of the QB wide receiver combinations you can go out and draft. Mm-hmm. We gave you some of our favorites. My favorite one is probably Jameis and Mike Evans. I really like that pairing. I've been high on Jameis. I've been telling you guys that I think with Arians there, it's going to really help Jameis out. And Mike Evans, to me, Mike Evans might be my favorite wide receiver. I love Mike. Just as a player, I love Mike Evans. He's another guy that stays on the field. He's healthy a lot. Mm-hmm. He is a beast of a human being. He knows how to go up and get the ball. And, I just love watching Mike Evans play.
Yeah, my favorite probably is going to be Deshaun Watson and Hopkins. To me, like I said, I think those two could be amazing this year. I think, honestly, I know D-Hop has been amazing the past couple of years, but this could be the season where we go, D-Hop is hands down the best wide receiver in football. I really could see that season happening this year.
Yep. All right, guys. So there it is. That's the podcast for tonight. Remember, don't forget to check us out on the website at www.fourthandinchesff.com. That is www.4thandinchesff.com for a bunch of content, articles, blogs, player profiles, and you can subscribe to our draft guide. And until next time, peace out, guys.
Peace.